Those who read this letter will be the most successful people today. I will be the one to provide you with knowledge, experience, and wealth. Most importantly, from this point forward, I will help you memorize the lessons of success in the shortest time possible. Share me with your friends so that together, we can become elite and build lasting wealth. If you understand this, the rest is simple. In the quiet, tree-lined suburbs of an ordinary American town, there exists a ghost, a figure of immense power and wealth that remains utterly invisible to the naked eye. Most people walk past this ghost every day without a second glance. They are looking for the flash of a red Ferrari, the glint of a Rolex, or the imposing gates of a sprawling mansion. They seek the hyper-consumers, the people who scream their status from the rooftops. But the truth is far more chilling and far more liberating. The real millionaires aren't the ones you see on television or the ones driving the luxury sedans down Main Street. The real power is hidden in plain sight. Imagine a man named Mr. Miller. He lives in a modest 3-bedroom house built in the 1970s. He wears a 10-year-old watch, drives a dull, reliable domestic truck, and shops at the local hardware store for his own home repairs. To his neighbors, he is just an average guy, perhaps even someone they pity for his lack of success. Yet, behind that unassuming facade, Mr. Miller sits on a mountain of liquid assets, a fortress of wealth that grants him absolute freedom. He is the millionaire next door, and his existence is a direct affront to the modern cult of appearances. The tragedy of the average worker is the belief that wealth is synonymous with spending. But this narrative reveals that wealth is actually what you keep, not what you show. The story deepens as we observe a contrasting figure, a high-earning surgeon living just 3 blocks away. This man, let's call him Dr. South, earns 10 times the income of Mr. Miller. His house is a cathedral of modern architecture, and his driveway is a rotating showroom of European luxury. But the air inside that house is thick with the suffocating pressure of debt. Dr. South is a underaccumulator of wealth, UAW. Every dollar that enters his bank account is immediately conscripted into the service of his image. He is trapped in a gilded cage of his own making, forced to work grueling hours just to maintain the illusion of prosperity. He believes he is wealthy because he consumes like a king, but in reality, he is one paycheck away from total collapse. The psychological intensity of this realization is staggering. While the world envies the doctor secretly envies the peace he cannot buy. The lesson here is a brutal awakening. A high income does not make you rich, it only gives you the potential to become rich. Most people fail because they confuse the goal of being wealthy with the desire to look wealthy. Real wealth is the silence of a paid-off mortgage and the security of a diversified portfolio. While the high-status lifestyle is often nothing more than a loud, desperate cry for validation, as we follow the path of the true millionaire, we discover that their secret weapon is not a genius-level IQ or a lucky inheritance, but a relentless, almost religious devotion to frugality. The archetypal millionaire is a master of the budget. They treat their personal finances with the same rigor that a CEO treats a Fortune 500 company. They track every penny, not because they are miserly, but because they respect the energy that money represents. They understand that a dollar saved today is a seed that will grow into a tree of freedom tomorrow. Mr. Miller doesn't buy a new car because he doesn't need a new car. He understands the devastating impact of depreciation. He sees a $50,000 vehicle not as a status symbol, but as $50,000 of lost investment capital that could have doubled over the next decade. This narrative of discipline is the foundation of the giant's strength. The analytical truth is that wealth is built through the boring, repetitive, and unglamorous habit of living below your means. The world tries to seduce you into believing that you deserve it now. But the millionaire knows that what they truly deserve is a life free from the chains of their lender. By rejecting the siren song of consumerism, they gain a level of control that no luxury item could ever provide. The story then shifts to the internal dynamics of the millionaire's family, revealing a surprising and often controversial truth about the economic outpatient care. Many wealthy parents, out of a misplaced sense of love, shower their adult children with financial gifts, down payments for houses, private school tuition for grandkids, and cash infusions for lifestyle maintenance. The research shows a heartbreaking irony: the more help these children receive, the less likely they are to become wealthy themselves. These gifts act like a sedative, dulling the child's ambition and preventing them from developing the very muscles of discipline and frugality that made their parents rich. We see the story of a daughter of a millionaire who, despite her father's wealth, struggles with credit card debt and a lack of career focus because she has always had a safety net. She has become a financial cripple, unable to stand on her own feet because she was never allowed to experience the necessary pain of scarcity. The lesson is profound: you cannot gift someone the character required to be wealthy. True wealth is a result of struggle and self-reliance. By providing care to adult children, parents often inadvertently ensure that their offspring will never attain the financial independence they so desperately want for them. The giant within the next generation is never awakened because it is too comfortable in its pampered sleep. Further into the psyche of the millionaire, we find that they are obsessed with the allocation of time. While Dr. South spends his weekends browsing luxury car lots or planning elaborate social events to impress his peers, Mr. Miller is spending his Saturday mornings studying his investments or reading about tax-advantaged accounts. The millionaire understands that time is the ultimate currency. They invest their hours into activities that increase their net worth, rather than activities that merely burn their income. They are proactive, not reactive. They don't wait for a financial crisis to look at their bank statements. They anticipate the future and prepare for it with a calm, calculated precision. This narrative of time management is what separates the masters from the servants. We learn that wealth is the result of a conscious choice to prioritize long-term security over short-term gratification. It is the result of thousands of small, seemingly insignificant decisions to save rather than spend, to study rather than distract, and to plan rather than hope. The millionaire's life is a testament to the power of compound interest, not just in money, but in habits and knowledge. The narrative takes us into the professional world of these hidden titans. Most millionaires are self-employed, often in dull businesses that many would find unglamorous. They own paving companies, dry cleaners, or scrap metal yards. They are the backbone of the economy. Yet they don't seek the limelight. They have chosen professions where they are not required to maintain an expensive image. A lawyer or a corporate executive is often forced by social pressure to wear certain clothes and live in certain neighborhoods, creating a tax on their income that prevents wealth accumulation. The small business owner, however, is free to be as frugal as they wish. They recognize that the best way to get rich is to be in a business that serves the wealthy, rather than trying to be one of the pseudo-wealthy. They are the strategists of the marketplace, identifying niches where they can build value without the overhead of vanity. This teaches us that the path to wealth often lies in the overlooked corners of the economy. It is not about the prestige of the job title, but the profitability of the enterprise. The giant finds strength in the practical, the gritty, and the real. As the story of the millionaire next door unfolds, it becomes clear that their most significant asset is their mindset regarding social status. They are socially indifferent. They do not feel the need to keep up with the Joneses because they know that the Joneses are likely broke and living on credit. This indifference is a superpower. It allows them to make rational financial decisions based on their own goals rather than the expectations of others. When Mr. Miller sees a neighbor buy a new boat, he doesn't feel a pang of jealousy. He feels a sense of pity for the debt the neighbor has likely incurred. He understands that a boat is not a symbol of success, but a liability that consumes time and money. This psychological fortress is what keeps the millionaire's wealth growing while others' wealth evaporates. The analytical takeaway is that the greatest obstacle to wealth is our own ego. To become truly rich, one must kill the desire to look rich. One must find validation from within, from the knowledge of one's own strength and security, rather than from the envious glances of strangers. The narrative culminates in a vision of what a life of true wealth looks like. It is a life of peace of mind. The millionaire next door can sleep at night knowing that they are prepared for any economic storm. They have the go-to-hell money that allows them to walk away from any situation that does not align with their values. They are not slaves to a boss, a bank, or a social circle. Their wealth is a shield, a tool, and a legacy. They teach their children the value of $1, ensuring that the flame of prosperity continues to burn for generations. They are the quiet winners of the game of life. This part of the story emphasizes that the reward for frugality and discipline is not just a high number in a bank account, but a soul that is free from the anxieties of the modern consumerist trap. The man in the modest house with the old truck is the one who is truly winning, because he owns his life, while the man in the mansion is owned by his lifestyle. The awakening of the giant is the realization that you have the power to step off the treadmill of more and step into the sanctuary of enough. The story of the millionaire next door is not a fairy tale of overnight success, but a gritty, realistic epic of persistence and character. It is the story of ordinary people doing extraordinary things through the power of habit. It challenges every cultural narrative we have been fed about what it means to be successful. It strips away the glamour and reveals the raw, honest truth of how wealth is actually built and maintained. It is a call to arms for anyone who is tired of the rat race and hungry for real freedom. The journey begins with a change in perception, a realization that the person you should be trying to impress is your future self. The millionaire next door is not a myth, he is a reality that you can become if you have the courage to live a life that others will judge today so that you can live a life that others will envy tomorrow. The secret is out. The ghost has been revealed. And the path is clear. It is a path of discipline, a path of frugality, and a path of ultimate power. The only question remains, are you willing to be the ghost in your own neighborhood? The transformation from a consumer to a wealth accumulator requires a psychological revolution, one that shifts the focus from current income to future independence. In the shadows of the glamorous professional world, a silent war is being waged between two types of people, those who work for their possessions and those whose possessions work for them. Consider the story of a high-powered corporate executive, Mr. Yates, who earns a staggering six-figure salary but possesses a net worth that is virtually non-existent. He is a victim of lifestyle creep, where every promotion is met with a larger house, a more exclusive club membership, and a more expensive private school for his children. He is the archetype of the hyper-consumer, a man who is hyperventilating under the pressure of his own success. He views money as a stream of water that must be channeled into immediate gratification. On the other side of this divide is the prodigious accumulator of wealth, PAW. This individual might earn half of what Mr. Yates earns, but they treat every dollar as a soldier in an army destined to conquer the future. They understand that wealth is a defensive fortification. The narrative of the poor is one of patience and tactical restraint. They are the ones who buy quality goods that last, who avoid the status tax of luxury brands, and who find more joy in a rising stock ticker than a new leather interior. This contrast teaches us that the greatest enemy of wealth is the desire to appear successful before you actually are. The story intensifies as we examine the millionaire's rule of 7, a set of behaviors that define the lifestyle of the truly affluent. These individuals are almost universally characterized by their ability to say no. They say no to the latest technology that they don't need, they say no to the social invitations that exist only to display wealth, and they say no to the pressure of their peers to upgrade their standard of living. This resistance is not born of misery, but of a superior vision. They have a mental accounting system that prioritizes financial freedom over social approval. The storytelling follows a group of self-made millionaires who gather for a meeting. One might expect a room full of expensive suits and fine wines. Instead, the researchers found a room of men in off-the-rack clothing, drinking domestic beer and discussing the efficiency of their businesses. They are the invisible rich, people who have decoupled their self-worth from their net worth. The analytical takeaway is that social pressure is a wealth destroyer. To join the ranks of the millionaires next door, one must develop a social immunity, a psychological shield that makes the opinions of the uninformed irrelevant. If you are worried about what your neighbor thinks of your 5-year-old car, you have already lost the battle for your financial soul. A critical chapter in this narrative involves the targeting of the wealthy. The world is filled with wealth hunters, predatory salespeople, high-end retailers, and investment gurus who specialize in separating the high earner from the money. These hunters look for signs of weakness: the luxury watch, the designer handbag, the flashy dress. They know that a person who buys these things is a person who values status over substance. The millionaire next door, however, is a difficult target. Because they don't look rich, they are often ignored by the very people who would seek to drain their resources. They navigate the world in a stealth mode, allowing them to move freely and make objective decisions without the interference of those seeking a commission. This part of the story illustrates the tactical advantage of being unremarkable. By blending into the middle class, the millionaire protects their capital from the status tax and the predatory gaze of the consumerist machine. We learn that anonymity is a form of wealth protection. The less the world knows about your financial strength, the more power you actually have. The narrative then explores the family fortress, the method by which the millionaire ensures their wealth survives beyond their own lifetime. They do not raise spoiled children, they raise productive children. The story highlights a millionaire father who refuses to tell his children how much money the family actually has until they have established their own careers and proven their own financial discipline. He teaches them the art of the deal and the virtue of the budget from a young age. He knows that giving a child a large inheritance before they have learned to earn is like giving a high-performance sports car to someone who hasn't learned to drive. It will almost certainly end in a crash. The storytelling depicts the tension between the desire to provide and the need to prepare. The analytical lesson is that financial education is the most valuable inheritance you can give. A child who understands how to manage $1,000 is far more likely to successfully manage $1 million than a child who has only ever been taught how to spend it. The giant's legacy is not built on trust funds, but on the transmission of values and work ethic. As the characters in this real-world drama age, we see the divergent paths of the UAW and the poor. Dr. South, the surgeon, enters his 60s with a high income but a massive debt load and no exit strategy. He is forced to keep working, his hands perhaps shaking with the stress of a life spent on a treadmill he cannot stop. He is a wage slave in a lab coat. Meanwhile, Mr. Miller, the unassuming business owner, enters his golden years with a diversified portfolio that generates more income than he ever earned from his labor. He is the master of his time, traveling the world, often in coach, and spending time with his grandchildren, knowing that his family's future is secure for a century. The story becomes a meditation on the nature of success. Is it the flash of the moment, or the stability of the lifetime? The millionaire next door chooses the latter every single time. This segment of the narrative emphasizes that the giant within is not a burst of glory, but a slow-burning fire of consistency. The man who was boring in his 30s is the only one who is truly free in his 60s. The narrative reaches a psychological peak when it addresses the concept of relative wealth. The millionaire next door often lives in a neighborhood where they are the wealthiest person on the block, but no one knows it. This is a deliberate choice. By living in a neighborhood where the Joneses have a lower standard of living, the millionaire avoids the keeping up trap. They are the big fish in a small pond. Conversely, the underaccumulator often moves into a neighborhood they can barely afford, surrounding themselves with people who are even more obsessed with status than they are. This creates a vortex of spending that makes wealth accumulation impossible. The storytelling illustrates how our environment dictates our financial destiny. We learn that to be rich, you should live in a neighborhood where people earn less than you do. This provides a psychological buffer that makes frugality easy and social competition non-existent. The giant knows that his environment is either a garden that nurtures his wealth or a desert that consumes it. Finally, the story brings us to the gifts of the millionaire. These individuals are often the most charitable members of society, but their giving is as quiet as their living. They don't need their names on buildings or plaques on walls. They give because they have the capacity to give. A capacity built through decades of discipline. Their wealth allows them to support causes they believe in without ever compromising their own security. The narrative portrays the ultimate irony. The person who was called cheap by his neighbors for driving an old car is the one who secretly funds the local library or provides scholarships for underprivileged youth. The analytical takeaway is that frugality is not about saving money for its own sake, it's about allocating resources to what truly matters. The millionaire next door has reclaimed the power of choice. They have the power to help, the power to build, and the power to change lives. All because they refuse to waste their power on a designer label or a fleeting trend. The man who lives next door, the one you never noticed, is the true hero of the modern economy. He has mastered the art of internal validation. He doesn't need a luxury car to tell him he is successful because he has the proof in his bank statement and the peace in his heart. The story of the millionaire next door is a guide to the great escape, the escape from the prison of consumerism and the entry into the world of genuine independence. It is a story that proves that anyone, with enough discipline and a long enough horizon, can become a giant of their own making. The path is not hidden, it is just unglamorous. It is paved with used cars, modest houses, and consistent investments. It is a path of quiet strength and loud freedom. As the narrative of these hidden millionaires comes to a close, the listener is left with a haunting question: are you working to build a life? Or are you working to build a show? The giant is waiting for your answer. The resolution of the narrative brings us to the final, most transformative realization of all, that the millionaire next door is not a person of restricted living, but a person of unrestricted freedom. The storytelling shifts to the twilight years of these hidden giants, revealing a scene of profound serenity. While the hyper-consumers are haunted by the specter of running out of money, of health, of relevance, the millionaire next door has cultivated a life that is self-sustaining. We see a woman, perhaps a retired schoolteacher who never earned more than a modest salary, sitting in her sun-drenched kitchen. She has no debt. Her modest pension and her massive, quiet investment portfolio provide her with a monthly income that exceeds her needs. She is the ultimate master of her own time. She is not a millionaire because she made it in a single lucky break. She is a millionaire because she chose to be one every single morning for 40 years. This is the aggressive patience of the giant. The analytical insight here is that time is the great equalizer. Small, consistent actions compounded over decades create a result so massive it looks like magic to those who don't understand the process. We learn that wealth is the byproduct of a life lived with intentionality. The story moves toward the final conflict, the confrontation with the myth of the quick fix. Throughout the lives of these millionaires, they were constantly surrounded by people seeking shortcuts, lottery tickets, speculative bubbles, and get-rich-quick schemes. The millionaire next door stood firm against these delusions. They understood that wealth is a marathon, not a sprint. The storytelling describes the 1990s tech bubble or the real estate frenzies, where neighbors ridiculed the millionaire for being too conservative or missing out on easy gains. But when the bubble burst, as it always does, the millionaire was the only one still standing. This part of the narrative reinforces the virtue of calculated risk. They don't gamble, they invest. They don't speculate, they build. The lesson is that the most dangerous path is the one that promises something for nothing. To wake the giant is to accept the reality of work, the necessity of time, and the power of patience. True financial power is not found in the big score, but in the long game, in the final assessment of the characters. We see the true legacy of the book's research. It is a legacy of competence. The millionaire next door is almost always a person who is highly competent in their chosen field. Regardless of how unglamorous it might be, they are masters of their craft, and their financial success is a reflection of the value they have provided to their community. The narrative portrays a man who owns a local waste management company. He is not a celebrity, but he knows everything there is to know about logistics, equipment, and service. He is a pro, and the market rewards him for his excellence. This teaches us that the best way to earn more is to become more. Financial mastery and professional mastery are two sides of the same coin. The giant within is fueled by the pride of a job well done. Wealth is the evidence of a life lived with a high degree of personal responsibility and a commitment to serving others effectively. The narrative now draws to a close by synthesizing the core message, that wealth is a choice available to almost anyone who is willing to prioritize long-term freedom over short-term ego. The millionaire next door is a template, a blueprint for a life of quiet dignity and absolute security. The book intends to convey that the American dream is alive and well. But it doesn't look like a reality show. It looks like a budget, a used car, a modest house, and a steady investment plan. It is a dream built on the 4 pillars: frugality, time, discipline, and independence. The meaning of this work is to liberate you from the work-spend-debt cycle that keeps the majority of the population in a state of perpetual anxiety. It is a call to reclaim your power from the marketing machines and the social expectations that seek to keep you small. The giant is the part of you that knows you don't need a designer label to be worthy. It is the part of you that values the security of your family over the envy of your neighbors. The story of the millionaire next door is the story of the victory of the ordinary. It proves that you do not need to be a genius, a celebrity, or a sign of a wealthy family to achieve financial greatness. You simply need to be more disciplined than the average person. You need to be willing to be invisible so that you can become invincible. As the narrative concludes, we are left with the image of a world where millions of these hidden giants are living lives of profound impact and quiet joy, moving through our neighborhoods like ghosts of a more disciplined era. They are the true masters of the modern age, and they are inviting you to join their ranks. The gate is open, but the path is narrow. It requires you to leave your ego at the door and pick up a calculator instead. The journey to becoming the millionaire next door is not about changing what you have, it is about changing who you are. Once the internal shift occurs, the external wealth is inevitable. The core message is that wealth is the result of a lifestyle of hard work, perseverance, planning, and, most importantly, self-discipline. It is not what you earn, but what you keep and how you invest it that determines your destiny. The book reveals that the real millionaires are the ones who prioritize financial independence over social status, choosing to live beneath their means to secure a future of absolute freedom. They are the masters of the dull and the practical, proving that the path to a fortune is paved with simple, repeatable habits. True wealth is the silence of security, not the noise of consumption. The giant within is awakened when you realize that your bank balance is more important than your image. True wealth is the ability to fully experience life without the permission of a lender or a boss.